Hello and welcome to the Media Trust CYA 2025 podcast, a companion to our annual CYA malware and malvertising report. That's CYA for Cover Your Assets. Ad tags, creatives, landing pages, websites, apps, they are all targets for threat actors, and they are all at risk. I'm Gavin Dunaway, Marketing Director and Resident TMT Ad Hygiene Specialist, and with me is Pat Ciavolella, Director of Digital Security and Operations for the Media Trust, also known as the Wizard of Malware Prevention. He's possibly the most trusted voice out there when it comes to shutting down malware and malvertising. It's a good thing, too, because these are dark days for the digital media ecosystem. Ad tags with malware have quadrupled over the last 12 months, while unique attacks have stayed pretty static. That means malware distributors and malvertisers are having a lot of success delivering their malicious goods and attacking consumers. Threat actors have found consistent vulnerabilities, particularly in the programmatic display and video spaces. Even worse, they've developed increasingly sophisticated attacks that evade detection and mitigation at all levels of the programmatic demand chain. Publisher, SSP, DSP, and all the other intermediaries that tried and squeeze out a buck in between. Phishing is up 4x year over year, backdoors 2x. Combined with continued uncertainty in digital advertising and publisher revenue struggles, this paints a dark picture for the second half of 2025. That's why Pat and I are here to give you insight and action steps for keeping consumers and your business safe. We're going to walk through 7 major trends at a breakneck pace, so hold on to your butts. Pat, before we get down to brass tacks, let's talk about you. You've been fighting malware with the Media Trust for nearly 15 years. What about this moment in battling bad actors stands out to you?
So there's definitely a lot of things that stand out, some of which are the sophistication methods, but a lot of it comes down to, money. Everybody's trying to make a buck. People are unwilling to act upon notifications, and the timeliness in which they act seems to be reducing, which is causing lots more issues across the board.
Threat actors are always evolving, which means the threat hunters have to evolve as well. Without giving away too much special sauce, what are some of the improvements your team has made to catch wily bad actors?
So we've definitely upgraded a lot of what we're doing when it comes to identifying different pattern recognition. So we're definitely using more sophisticated tools. We're using our AI to help identify the patterns of how these bad actors operate and what they're actually delivering to make sure that we continue to stay one step ahead of what these guys are trying to do.
And that's really needed with this first threat that we're going to talk about today. The biggest attack we are seeing at the moment, unfortunately, marks a major evolution in obfuscation. Ad tags with the string ripper attack have nearly quadrupled since the beginning of the year. Its scareware redirects are popping up all across digital media. Pat, what makes string rippers such a virulent attack?
So a lot of it comes down to the fact that these actors are pretty sophisticated when it comes to advertising as a whole. They're rotating through their campaigns very quickly. So normal methods of identifying and blocking aren't nearly as effective as they used to be. But the other big thing that they're doing is just getting into different DSPs and SSPs to make sure they can continue to serve their ads through their what looks to be normal obfuscation methods, but it's how they're hiding what they really intend to do.
Yes, for a while we saw this only coming from one major DSP and with a massive footprint, but unfortunately, they're starting to spread out. In the past, we saw a lot of cycling through domains, but this goes beyond that. We're talking about cycling through legit ad tags and creatives of legit advertisers.
They're using lots of different advertisers and campaigns. They're creating new creatives. They're encoding them in similar methods, but every time they create a new campaign, obviously they're rewriting the code, launching different attacks, using different CDNs to deliver the malicious JavaScript. So it's definitely a large amount of randomization into how they're delivering the campaigns. They're looking for specific users and specific actions from those users to make sure this is a real person. I will deliver malware to them, and it's not security professionals, people doing random checks.
The randomization, timing checks. I mean, this is stuff we haven't really seen, not on a scaled basis before. What's key for mitigation? I mean, you're painting a pretty dark picture here. Is there any hope at all?
There's always hope. So definitely using the right vendors who can stay on top of these security checks and identify this type of coding patterns. Also being able to take action and really identify who the buyers are behind these and make sure they're shut down from your platform.
Pre-flight and in-flight too, because a good actor can suddenly turn into a bad one overnight. Speaking of new precedents, phishing redirect GhostCat, also known as Scam Club, exploded last year when it jumped to exploiting video ad units and programmatic arbitrage. While attacks have subsided from the peaks of 2024, it's back on the rise. Is it still a primarily video-related threat?
It's definitely not a video-related threat only. It's coming through standard display as well. We've seen it delivered pretty much through any channel in advertising that's available. Video happened to be the new way they got their foot in the door, and they were able to quickly spread lots of different attacks.
There's also this idea in ad tech in general that, nobody does malware in video ads because, it's too expensive. But those video ad units that are on publisher pages, those tend to go for, we'll say, affordable CPMs, definitely for the malvertisers, it seems.
Video has that preconceived notion where bad guys aren't going to utilize it because it costs too much money. It's not effective for them, but this definitely proves the point that bad guys will 100% exploit video when given the opportunity, and they're continuing to do so today.
And that leads me to have some questions about, what happens eventually with CTV, because similar to digital video, web video, it was thought that, it's too expensive. But at some point, those programmatic video CPMs on CTV are going to go down low enough where it's like, we should exploit this.
Bad guys are going to take advantage of any delivery channel that they can. So it doesn't matter if it's going to cost a little bit more money. As long as the bad guys want to continue doing what they're doing and they're having any sort of success in it, they're going to continue to do it.
And that's what scares me a lot, because we saw this with GhostCat. Was they discovered they had a bit of success with those on-page video units, and the ramp up was just incredible. GhostCat has been the most dominant phishing redirect for years now. As long as I've been at the Media Trust, what's key for pubs and ad tech to stay in front of it?
It definitely comes down to being vigilant in your security audits, making sure that you're checking your campaigns, you're looking at them regardless of what platform they're coming through, but also being able to make the decision when this is coming through one channel that's a small DSP. If they're a very high risk, you need to just terminate that, shut off that demand source to make sure these bad guys don't have that path to enter your delivery stream.
And this is also what kind of makes it a really tough moment in digital advertising, because a lot of publishers on the open web are feeling the squeeze. There's a lot of hesitance from digital advertisers in general. There's a lot of money moving to CTV, and publishers, they're feeling a squeeze and they need revenue, and they're slow to turn off demand sources that might be attacking consumers.
Making that decision is a very important one to keep a safe ecosystem.
It'll cost you more money in the long run.
Exactly.
So moving on to a newer threat that's really just kind of astounding to me. Most of us probably find CAPTCHAs really annoying, but evil. Tricking consumers into offering up remote access to their devices. After you trick the users into offering remote access, you launch the infamous credential harvester and data thief Lumith stealer. Pat, how does ClickFix leverage social engineering to make consumers hack themselves?
Usually it comes down to trust, The user is visiting a legitimate site that they've been to before. They know it's the real site. some captcha comes up. Most of the time, people are just in autopilot when those come up. So they're going to follow the prompts. They're going to do what it says just to get to the content that they're trying to get to. Unfortunately, if you're not paying really close attention to what you're actually executing in those prompts, that's when the bad things happen. It's a pretty quick and dirty workaround for them to launch the malicious code without nearly as much suspicion as typical compromise.
I'm also amazed at they use PowerShell to sneakily they copy commands onto the clipboard. Is this kind of a newer thing, or have you seen this before?
So this is definitely a newer one. It usually these types of downloads and malicious content that people are going to install, there's going to be some sort of prompt. They're going to have to, yes, download this, or yes, execute this on my machine. In this situation, you're pasting the executable right into the command line. So there is no prompt, there is nothing happening. So if you're not paying attention to what you're hitting Command V, it's just going to execute. Person's going to then continue about their day and have no idea that this is actually executing in the background, downloading onto their machine, and causing a whole lot more issues down the line.
ClickFix, it uses a multi-front attack too, kind of like what we were talking about Ghost Cat. There's clickbait creatives that want you to accidentally hit on the continue button. There's compromised landing pages and even typo squatting to lure consumers to fake versions of their favorite websites. We've been able to stop this attack from coming out of numerous premium DSPs and SSPs, big names out there. What makes it different from other like CMS compromises?
So a lot of the other compromises are going to utilize different pop-ups, different, downloads that the user is going to have to initiate and execute. Whereas the ClickFix attacks are normally going to be done just by copying and pasting. And if the user's not aware as to the keys they're actually punching in on their keyboard, it's just going to execute in the background, and they're going to have no idea that they just executed a file to be downloaded and run on their machine.
What's key for keeping consumers away from ClickFix?
Continuously scan your assets. So making sure you're scanning the whole flight duration, as well as the campaign itself, the landing page locations, because compromises can happen at any time. It doesn't mean when the campaign is launched, it's going to be there. It could happen a week into it, could happen a month into it. You never know.
Landing pages are a real risk. I mean, there's a lot of just kind of smaller, mid-size advertisers who are getting compromised, they're getting hacks, and they have no idea.
It definitely is a very easy way to identify when a website gets compromised. Is if it happens to be a landing page for an advertising campaign, we're going to be able to identify that, help the website owner out, and hopefully get their content cleaned up so that they can continue to do business.
It should be said to those smaller and mid-sized advertisers, if you can get ahead of that will save you time and money when it comes down to, you're having your campaigns delayed and whatnot.
Having somebody monitor your assets and make sure you're continuing to operate a clean website front or storefront, whatever it might be, is definitely going to pay for itself.
Something that was honestly very daunting. The fact that Soch Ghoulish just exploded, it almost seemed like out of nowhere across display and native advertising. It's long been the scourge of email and search, but it has never kind of hit a display the way that it did. Pat, can you tell us about the long sordid history of Soch Ghoulish and its very dreaded drive-by download?
It's definitely been around for quite a while, but recently we started to see lots of different websites become compromised by this attack vector. The big upticks we saw were mainly from WordPress related sites. Those ones definitely got compromised very quickly. Once the bad guys figure out how to get inside of one specific plugin or one version of WordPress, anybody running that version or that specific plugin, they're all vulnerable to that attack. And these bad guys are definitely taking note of that and pushing it.
the whole idea of the drive-by download is you click to a website and then bang, it's right onto your device, right?
So most of them can act that way, but the majority of time, there's always going to be some sort of prompt. They're going to mimic your Google Chrome and say, Chrome is out of date. You need to update it. It's going to look exactly like it would if your Chrome was out of date. They 100% rip that off, except the download they're clicking on isn't actually related to Chrome. It might say chrome.exe or chromeupdater.exe, but it's definitely not that.
So again, Pat, what's key for ad tech and pubs to protect themselves and consumers?
So it's going to come down to just monitoring who's running through your platform, making sure that those campaigns from beginning to end, whether it's the campaign delivery or the click-through or the landing destination itself, all of that gets monitored and checked. And once something is identified, working with that specific partner to make sure they clean it up, they take care of whatever the vulnerability is, patch whatever they need to patch, and basically plug the holes so the bad guys can't get in.
In 2024, we probably saw the most widespread malware outbreak over our 20 years of threat hunting. 110,000 websites compromised by a seemingly harmless open source JavaScript library. What happened with the polyfill outbreak?
So this was definitely a large attack, and it mainly came down to polyfill no longer being owned and executed by the company that used to run it.
But what exactly was polyfill?
Some JavaScript on a page that actually helped the website render if a user was using an older browser. So that was its primary use case. So all the companies out there in the world that had that installed and running on their website to help any user visiting their website make it run smoothly, they all became vulnerable because that code was no longer monitored. It was no longer kept up. The company let the domain expire. And then some shady Chinese company purchased it and started doing whatever they wanted with it.
Redirects coming out on major brand advertisers on their websites, not through ad channels, on the actual brand website. It's very similar to what we call like zombie ad tech, where you'll see like an old company, they went out of business and somebody will buy the domain and start sending redirects on a random auto insurance website. But so widespread. I mean, we have never seen anything at that level. Polyfill had to be a one-off, right? I mean, something like this couldn't happen again, could it?
Unfortunately, yeah, it's gonna happen again. This continues to plague the entire digital ecosystem. To your point, the zombie ad tag code, it's not just ad tag in general. It's any tech code, any third-party code that you're utilizing on your website is potentially vulnerable to this. If company no longer keeps it up, domain expires, bad guys wait for that. They're going to be quick to jump on it and basically pointing it to whatever they want to point it to.
These are the same guys that do the typo squatting and stuff like that. I mean, they are hawks. So how do we prevent the next polyfill?
You got to keep up with what's running on your site. You got to know what third parties you're utilizing, what code is actually rendering when a user visits that website. If something is no longer needed, or if something is, deprecating out, you're aware that this is on your site and you need to action it prior to the bad thing happening, rather than taking the reactive approach and saying, man, this is everywhere. Now I'm in the front page news. Let me take action upon it.
Open source code is extremely helpful, but it can also be like an incredible threat. And brands and advertisers, they need to be extremely diligent with their websites, um, and what they're doing with third parties, as you said. And it's interesting how this is also like a huge issue with data governance as well. We are seeing the same thing on the privacy front. Like all of a sudden, especially in California, companies are getting hit with privacy violations, CPRA, CPPA, and it's all just has to do with there was code running on their websites that they didn't know about. Sadly, I think I'm becoming immune to all of the Elon Musk and Simon Cowell fake endorsements that keep hitting us across the web. How has widespread generative AI factored in the spread of bogus celebrity endorsements?
The AI models are making it far easier for people to create and deliver these things. So whether it's the actual image asset itself or the landing destinations, these things are able to be created in mass so that when one gets shut down, they already have 5 backups created and they just keep cycling through, launch the next thing. The more they do this, the better it gets, more convincing to the consumer, and it's just bad news across the board.
They're advertisers when it comes down. They're advertising bad stuff, but they are advertising and they pay attention to campaign metrics and work on campaign optimization. Can AI also be used to mitigate the threat?
AI is definitely something we're utilizing because it's going to identify these things quicker than humans are going to be able to, eyeball every single variation. Utilizing AI to find these things and bring them to the analyst's attention to make sure action gets taken when it is something bad versus, okay, this is actually a real celebrity endorsing a product. Those are legitimate ones where we can train the model to learn what's good, what's bad, but it's very helpful in the speed in which these can be identified.
All right, I will admit that was a stage question. I knew the answer, but I have to say that I have been so impressed, like kind of going in the back end and being like, oh wow, just like just adding celebrities and just getting the results so quick. It's really really impressive.
Yes, it's a very useful tool that unfortunately can be used for good and bad.
One of the coolest things about the media trust is we have this massive infrastructure of devices, and sometimes they're even called honeypots. Very similar how Google indexes content all over the web. Well, we go out threat hunting. We go out looking for malware, and we build profiles that attract it. And it's fascinating because we see attacks that are targeting certain vulnerable groups. In particular, there's seniors. The tech support scams have been targeted at them nonstop. The famous tech support scam that we call Dolos. I think everybody has seen this one, and it even talks to you. Has there been much change in that attack since it first appeared back in 2022?
Not really. Overall, this attacks remain pretty consistent. They're using that scareware, forcing the sense of urgency onto a consumer. And that seems to be an effective measure. When somebody feels pressured and they have to act quickly or something bad might happen, they usually don't think as clearly. They take action and bad things occur when that happens. So they haven't changed it much. It seems to be working for them, unfortunately.
It says something about their evasion techniques that they're able to it's pretty much the same creative.
It's not changing very frequently, and the fact that the only thing that's changing is the landing destination, launching the attacks, makes you think it would be easier to identify and get shut down at scale.
We've also seen a disturbing rise in malware targeting minors, and it's a range of stuff, but including the tech support attacks. But what really stood out to me was what we call PUPs, potentially unwanted programs. Pat, a lot of the ad platforms, notably one that rhymes with Snoogle, think these are okay, but you consider them dangerous. Why?
It's definitely something that grows. So on the initial onset of download, it's going to maybe actually provide the thing you're trying to download, but it's also going to put other things on your machine to disrupt your user experience. Many a times what actually happens is that's just stage one. Stage two is when they push the update and it automatically gets updated in your browser. Then the malicious code is going to be present. Then these companies might take action upon them. They might get them shut down, but the damage is already done. It's already on the user's machine and impacting their day-to-day, whether it's poor user experience or something far worse.
These are things like PDF compilers, print now apps, and stuff like that. And they're extensions, and they're just supposedly ad supported, so they're free. And they're targeting minors a lot because these are kids that think like, oh, yeah, I need that right now. And they're not thinking in their right mind, like, wait a second, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
They're trying to design so it's providing something useful for these people, whether it's, a specific add-on or a tool that they would utilize. They're just trying to push it and try to get the downloads. And that's when bad things occur, is when people think, hey, I could use that. And they don't bother looking into who actually makes it, what's it actually going to accomplish if installed on my machine.
I think in the media and ad tech world, I mean, we should make a step to prevent those from hitting consumers. Don't put that decision in front of them.
The majority of these things, if somebody wants that type of tool, they'll go out and they'll try to download it and install it themselves. They're not going to potentially even click on the fake creative that looks like native content.
So are there any particular steps that you think platforms and pubs should take to protect these vulnerable groups?
You definitely have to be careful about who you're working with, who you're letting into your platform. So making sure that they're shutting down the sources of either high risk or known bad. Take action upon that. But you also want to reevaluate different creative policies, making sure you're up to date with how the current ecosystem is working so that you're not letting in the malicious content and even the very questionable content that a lot of people consider gray area. Even that it's not really needed for a good ecosystem, for a good user experience. So preventing that from coming through, letting the big players earn a little bit more money, stopping the bad guys from earning a little bit more money might fare well for everybody.
You're on to something there. I think it's a rising tide that lifts all boats. As we've chatted, a lot of these attacks, from String Ripper to Social Golish, they seem particularly vicious, like more vicious than I've seen over the years in working with Media Trust. Often we talk about how malvertising is just considered a cost of doing business for ad platforms. Hey, consumers won't be fooled by that garbage, by that phishing redirect. That's never been true. Consumers are misled all the time. I mean, especially with the celebcore, fizzcore, bogus celebrity endorsements. I have heard so many horror stories about it that I can't get out of my head. The tech support scams. I mean, they made a movie about it. The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. It drives the whole plot. And you know what? They used the tech support scam on Felicia Rashad, Mrs. Huxtable herself. These threats seem far more dire and harder for consumers to protect themselves against. I'm wondering, is it just me, Pat, or are you feeling that too?
100%. These people out there are making it almost discouraging to use the open web. These people are relentless in what they're willing to do and how they're willing to do it. We continue to do what we need to do to get these bad guys removed from the ecosystem.
I'm not going to BS you guys. I'm a marketing director. I'm trying to sell ad security solutions, but we are generally concerned about what we are seeing across the ecosystem, especially when you take into account the open web is having serious revenue troubles, and it feels like it's becoming a more dangerous place. I'm sorry to leave off on that down moment, but it's true that it's never been more important to CYA, and we want to thank you so much for joining us today, and you can gain even more insight with the CYA 2025 report, now available on MediaTrust.com. And Pat and I are always available if you want to send us notes. Truth is, we want to talk about it because we want to stop it. So thank you guys very much. We'll see you soon. Stay safe out there.